pleasure to welcome Dr. Michael Hammond-Todd. He is one of my colleagues at Utah Tech University. He is a STEM educator, been in education for, I imagine, we'll let him explain, but I think for the most part of his life. He's just a wonderful colleague to have in our department, and also he is an instructor for Education 1010. And in this chapter's teacher feature, I'm going to have him describe a little bit about why he became a STEM teacher or a teacher in general, and then ultimately what led him to becoming a professor. But welcome, Michael.
Thank you, Dr. Bard. So I think I was first alerted to the fact that I might go into teaching when I was teaching swimming lessons as a lifeguard at 16. A parent said, you should go into teaching. At the time, I wasn't ready because I was, a high school student and stuff. So I went into college and university and became a science major. And so I've loved science ever since I was a kid. I grew up on a ranch with cattle and all that kind of stuff, loved nature, and became a biology major and was working on various endangered species programs and for wildlife organizations. And my daughter was born. I thought about enrolling in a teacher ed program earlier, but I pulled out because my daughter was an infant and I needed to make money for the family. But when I was 25 or 26, I had the unique opportunity to enroll in a teacher ed program. And I suppose before I get further into the story, I should let the viewers know I'm a dual national. So I'm an American citizen and a Canadian citizen. And I bounce between both countries. And so I had the opportunity to become a teacher educator within the context of a Native American teacher education program in Washington State. And that was a fascinating program that provided me with really interesting alternative perspective on the history of education, which we discuss in 1010. And when I emerged from that, I was a secondary science teacher. And I started as a middle school, junior high school teacher, taught at an alternative charter school high in the mountains. Loved it. It was fantastic. It was multi-age, small, and we could go skiing when we were done teaching, which was always fun. And after a couple years, I thought I wanted to have an international experience. And so I taught science and elementary education in Mexico, in Chiapas, Mexico. And I helped them build some of their first secondary labs at the school. And that's totally a different story. I won't mention the whole thing here, but it was a fun adventure. And when I came back, the school that hired me knew that I spoke Spanish. And so they asked me to switch to ESL and absolutely loved it. But I was a K through 6th grade ESL specialist. And I have to tell you that I really admire kindergarten teachers because jumping from secondary education to teaching kindergarten students English and all the kindergarten knowledge was quite a challenge. But I really loved that position and stayed in it for many years until I decided to go on for my PhD. And I completed my PhD back in British Columbia. And I decided to get back into science education. And so my PhD graduate work and my work here at the university in Utah Tech, is around STEM education. And so why did I become a teacher? I think ultimately it was because of my daughter. And she is currently a university student, but it really provided me with an opportunity to have a professional career that also balanced with my family's needs.
Very, very, very cool. So your secondary experience, was it in most of it in the state of Washington?
So, as a dual national, so I spent a lot of my life in Colorado. So my secondary teaching was in Colorado, although I had secondary practicum experiences in in Washington in that unique teacher ed program I described earlier. Um, and I taught online. I taught online as a professor of an environmental ed program before I decided to go for my PhD. And so that's one thing I think our students, because I'm at Utah Tech too, should know is that there are so many options in education beyond a school. You can teach online and through companies and things like that. It's really interesting. But what was your question? Did I hope I answered it?
Oh no, I just wanted to know if the majority of your secondary experiences was in Washington State, but I know that you mentioned that you did kind of bounce back and forth, went to Mexico, came back to Washington, uh, Colorado. You had some education experience in Colorado, and I kind of want to have our students understand that education affords you many different opportunities, and we do have we make mention of online schools and public charters and public schools, the brick and mortar. Their education comes in many. It's packaged in the opportunities to facilitate a career in education are packaged in many different ways, and I think that this is what makes you so unique. So this leads me to my second question: what you've explained a little bit, but what do you think makes you? I know what makes you a good STEM educator. I've watched you build dinosaurs out of cardboard, life-size replicas, and put them together in different elementary settings. But what do you feel makes you a good STEM educator or a good teacher in general?
I think the latter is probably almost as important as the former in your question here. And so, in order to be a good teacher, you absolutely have to be passionate about the young people that you're working with and kind of put their goals ahead of yours for the moment. And so, I think one of the reasons I am successful as an educator is because I am trying to show the world how amazing all these students that I work with are. And so I do a lot of project-based learning. Here at the university, we do STEM service. So we organize and run science fairs at our professional development school. And I think the other thing that makes me a good science teacher is I'm pushing for inclusive STEM. And so we had a summer STEM program for Title I students that normally don't get a lot of enrichment. And we also have culture. When I was teaching, we had multicultural nights with families, and family involvement is really important in STEM as well. And in STEM, there's this discussion about STEM specialties and general STEM knowledge to participate as a critical thinking citizen in a complex society. And so I try to focus on STEM for everybody, inclusive STEM. And that includes severe and profound students in exceptional STEM, and it includes are multilingual learners who may be in the United States for their very first day.
Very good. You know, I know that is one thing that makes you unique is that you do care about the students that are enrolled in our education programs, and you afford them opportunities outside of the classroom to be involved in different science fairs. And just today, obviously, we had a student that had participated and in your science fair and helped you. And I know yesterday, or on Friday, excuse me, last week, that you sent me an email. You had an exceptional future secondary student that was doing a presentation at a conference. And I really appreciate that about you, is that you were so aware of these opportunities outside of the classroom that will involve students and help them further their career. But I think that's
Yeah.
what makes you unique in my eyes as a STEM educator. So what is your favorite part? And I know you've kind of sprinkled bits and pieces into your answers about this question, but what's your favorite part of being a teacher?
Summer. uh, I do. I would say though that was a big reason for becoming a teacher. Is it created a schedule that was compatible with my family, which was really important for me. But my favorite part of being a teacher is seeing the next generation of little students. When I was an elementary school teacher, and Utah Tech students, as a professor here, thrive and succeed and go on to a higher grade and perform well and win scholarships and things like that, uh, as high school students. And I get to work with the next generation of teachers, and it's a dream job to watch university students transform and become amazing educators in their own right, and unique approach to education. There's no one path that works in education. We need diversity in our schools.
Well, that's yeah, I agree with you, that no question, summer is a huge part of that. And you know, when we hear that, that is a fun part of being an educator is summer. I know that you mentioned to me some of your summer activities, what they're going to involve, and I think that in fact today in my class, in my Education 1010 class, I talked about one of the best ways to continue to be educated is through travel. And I know you enjoy traveling, and you mentioned that you were heading down to Guadalajara on a much deserved hiatus to just to go to museums and experience the culture, to sharpen up your Spanish fluency skills again. And I think that that's such a critical uh, aspect of being a teacher, is to have those opportunities, to have those chunks of time whereby you might travel and increase and continue to be a student and continue to learn, because that for me is without a doubt, next to being able to associate with these young people and to see that light bulb go off, and to see them 30 years later, and have them remember you for influencing them in a positive way. I think in addition to that, just sharing that desire and love of learning with them is so
Yeah.
important. So one final question here. And this one, I've kind of modified it as I've gone through the different teacher features in the chapters. But knowing what you know now, what would you do differently? Um, and what advice would you give to these students taking this course, starting out as they embark upon their teaching journey?
So, just briefly, I wanted to say that one of the reasons I'm going to Mexico too is they are a participant in the NASA's Artemis program, and so is Canada. In fact, Canada is sending their first astronaut. And so I'm part of my journey down to Mexico is to learn more about their participation in this international space program. And kudos to the United States for creating an amazing space exploration program that allows members of many different nations to participate. In terms of if I could do something differently as a teacher, I think what I would advise is that you will be ready to enroll in the teacher education program when you are fully committed to it. And as an example, I thought about being a teacher when my daughter was an infant, but I had to pull out, which ultimately meant that I wasn't ready for it because we weren't in the financial position at the time. And when she became a preschooler, I thought, you know what? I think I'm going to try again. And I don't think I would change anything about my journey so far, as I'm learning new things along each step of the way. And I think my only advice for new teachers would be don't force it. Um, that you should follow your interest, find your passions, travel, talk to people, um, and teach what you love. And I think that I've been able to do that. And it's interesting. So that I'm back in science, which is the topic I loved when I got into education. But I still wouldn't take away that journey of teaching in a country where I didn't know the language. I didn't know Spanish when I lived in Mexico, and I studied it very hard while I was there. And being an ESL teacher was really important to the inclusive ideas I have on STEM education today. And my Native American professor, grab something, helped me build my drum. And its education has just been a wonderful journey. And there's no one way to travel that path. And but we professors will be here to help you on your journey.
Very good. Yeah, it's important that we enjoy the ride, and
Yeah.
that we truly enjoy learning, and we're not just in a program to check a box, but that we immerse ourselves enough to really absorb what our professors are trying to teach us, and to get excited to go out and have that opportunity to influence the next generation. But I just want to thank you, Dr. Hammond-Todd, for participating in this teacher feature. You're an exceptional educator, and I admire you and your dedication. And I wish you well. But thank you very much.
The reverse is true as you prepare this brand new course text. And kudos to you and future students. There's a lot of work in becoming a teacher as well. So it's a great journey. Be prepared to do the work.
Thank you.